We've talked a lot about retail, and we did a lot of pop quizzes amongst the audience. So let me do a quick one. Since many of my years were spent in business and in news, how many of you tune into the 9 o'clock news still? Raise your hands. That's less than 1/3 of the crowd here. And how many of you sample news on your digital device, whether it's on your laptop or your mobile? So it's news on the go, and you update yourself almost every 30 minutes. Is 30 minutes a fair assumption? Is that how often you do it? So I think that's a good reflection of exactly what's happening in retail. Everything is moving together, it's dynamic, but digitization is happening. It's real, and it's part of our world, and we need to embrace it. And to talk about that in more detail, may I invite on stage Samik Roy. He's Director and Country Head of Dynamics at Microsoft India. He's going to be talking about digitization and retail.
Thank you. So I have 15 minutes to try and explain something which is very, very difficult to explain in 15 minutes. But what I would do is just to try and set a context out here and set a baseline from where you could think things forward. The anomaly out here is maybe I'm the only technology guy out here because the rest of the people have all been speaking from business. So what I would try to talk about is how do we make all of this a reality today? Okay? So let me start with something very, very simplistic. The mission of Microsoft is to make every individual and every organization on this planet to do more and achieve more. This is with the help of productivity, and this is with the help of empowerment. In the world of retail, the journey starts from the customer. So what do you need when you are talking about the customer? We need every touch point of the customer to be more experienced and more enriching. We need data to make that personal rather than make it mass marketing. And during this journey of the customer, which I'll talk about more, we need to ensure that we are driving, we are energizing, and we are strengthening customer loyalty. Because at the end of the day, customer loyalty means mind share. Mind share means wallet share. And wallet share means market share. And that's what all retailers are about. If we move forward, the next step is to empower your employees and individuals in your organization. This is for them to be able to understand and know and be one step ahead of the customer. And as I said, I'll talk about the customer once again. To be able to understand what information is required at what time, at what stage, at what customer touch point to be able to make that customer experience meaningful, right? And get in the loyalty to be able to do an effective sale. If we move forward, then it's about your entire operations, right? Your entire operation starts all the way from your supply chain, to your manufacturing, to procurement, to transportation, to secondary sales, to tertiary sales, all the way to store management and inventory and POS. Is to do all of that from one platform. And finally, it's about product. It's about how do you get feedback back into your organization. What are the features and functions which your customers are liking? What are the features and functions which the customers are not liking? And how do you get that back into building your product, improvising your product, going into a design change, adding a feature, adding a function, talking about some pricing so that the product is accepted. And the entire journey is about automating all of these together. So when we talk about retail, we are talking about building all of these things and putting all of these together on one single platform. What do I mean by a platform? A platform is a business applications which runs all of this. All of this all the way from a supply chain to POS and inventory and financials, which underlying it is an infrastructure which is scalable, underlying which is hardware, a hardware which has data redundancy, a hardware which is available on the cloud at any point of time, anywhere, in the mobile first and in the cloud first world. Empowering all of this on one side are aspects like IoT, aspects like big data, aspects like bot, which empower this entire organization to understand what is happening in the market and how to come out with better products, what the customers are thinking, and how to make the enrichment better. And on the other side of it are aspects which customers are using, things like HoloLens, things like augmented reality, things like Kinect, things like smart mirrors, to be able to interact with customers and organizations better. Our objective is to put all of this on one single platform. Now that looks easier said than done. But think of this today. Today we are in a world where organizations are even struggling to put a CRM together because the call center is separate, the internet is separate, the email center is separate, the knowledge management is separate. And we are talking about managing this entire journey end to end from one single platform. And that's what will make this entire thing a reality. Let me move forward. If you look at the world of retail today, it's clearly divided into two aspects. One is the physical aspect, where people go to the store, they do what we call as the treasure hunt, they look for the product which they want to buy, they try it out, and basically then they procure it, right? And from a retail perspective, you're analyzing this by footfalls, you're analyzing this by billing, you're analyzing this by your POS machines. On the other aspect of it is the online thing, which we so-called call as the digital things, where the person, instead of doing the treasure hunt, is doing a browsing, is doing search, is going and finding out what the customers are saying about the product, what the customer is saying about the search, about the service, and then putting into your shopping cart and buying it, right? Two very, very different experiences. Our objective is to try and combine the two. And why do you combine the two? We try and combine the two is because the biggest disruption today is the customer. Because there's a lot of empowerment that the customer is getting today, right? Because everything is coming on the hand, on the fingertips, through the mobile world. Now, a few of you might say that, look, this is cliche, and how come a futuristic company like Microsoft is talking about this? The reason I'm talking about this is because I want to bridge the past, the present, and the future. And I think we'll talk more about it when we are in the panel discussion. Okay? Today, the reality is that only 8% of the Indian market is automated, correct, or organized. With things like the GST, the financial inclusion, the digital network which is coming into the country, this will become bigger and bigger and bigger. And the customer experience will bring a bigger disruption in the entire retail industry if we are not ready for it. If we look at this jigsaw puzzle, this is how the customer will behave tomorrow. Today, there is an online, digital, what we call it, and there is an on-store, and the two are quite separate. But as this world combines together, this will be the digital journey. The customer comes in, completely educated, in the shop, looks at the product, does an online search, looks at which is better. What are other customers saying about it? What is the sentiment? How many goods are there? How many bads are there? Goes into a particular place from where they can shop, right? Goes back and picks it from somewhere else. Calls into the call center, takes a technical assistant, and that's how the entire journey continues. How do we bring all of this together, right? That's where the CRM story comes in. To be able to accumulate all of this, it's not just about a call center. It's just not about loyalty, that you buy something from me and I give you so many points. But it's able to put all of this together into one single application to be able to understand this journey. Now this looks simple, but it's very, very difficult. I'll give you my example. This weekend, I went to buy a Bose headset, right? If any of you are very, very clued in, they have just recently come out with something called Quiet Comfort 35. Before I went into the shop, I had done the entire research. What's the difference between QC35? What's the difference between QC25, which is on the ear, which is outside the ear, etc. And I also did a sentiment analysis of what are people saying about this product, right? I did all the research, went into the shop, and I asked a question which was a negative sentiment about the product. And I'm not saying you take the negative sentiment, but it's about somebody saying out there that this product can create a pressure on the ear because the noise cancellation is very, very strong, and it actually was very strong. But the fact of the matter is, when I asked that question to the person out there, the guy did not know, right? And it is important, which brings me to the next point. that when we want to combine the online store and the on-premise store or the in-store together, what we call as the modern store, it is important that that person out there is aware of all of this, right? Because that will make the shopping experience more enriching. Now, why is this important? This is important is, imagine yourself going on the internet and doing this shopping. You can browse, you look at all the products available, you do a feature by feature comparison, you do a comparison of the prices, you go and see what are people talking about, right? That's what all of us do. Now we come into a shop. What do we expect? We expect something to be better. Why? Because there is a person out there to attend to you. On the internet, there was nobody, and you got all of this information. Now, when you are in the shop, there is a person to be attending to you, correct? So this experience should be more enriching. And the main objective out here is the person who is standing next to you able to capture all of this information and have a meaningful discussion with you. If not, then how do you bridge the two together? And that's why the experience of what we call as a mobile store is very important. Whether it's the digital online one or whether it's the in-store one, the experience needs to be the same with a few differences. Okay? Aspect like assisted selling. Can I stand in front of the customer, do all the things which the customer can do online? Can I, as that store guy, standing next to the customer, quickly find out what was this feedback and what does the company say if a question comes on this particular aspect? Because a person who is going to buy a 29,000 headphone will ask this particular question. What are the competitive products out there from Jabra or Sennheiser, and what are the features and functions, right? And that is a very important thing. When you buy online, once you decide what do, you put it into a shopping cart, you say checkout, you do a payment, net banking, credit card, and you're off, right? When you come to a store, you put the product into a shopping basket, you go and stand in a queue. Now the question is, why would you like to stand in a queue? Okay? And that is where, again, a modern POS comes into the play, where standing in front of the customer, I can do the billing there and then. By the time the guy walks out, his invoice is already there in the email. The whole thing is updated and automated in the call center. The person walks out, calls up the call center and says, I just bought this product, and the guy can say, welcome, Mr. Mahajan, I'm already aware of you buying the product, right? Because the registration happens online. And that's where we got to make all these stores come together. The final point I want to make, correct, is about empowering the workforce. This is extremely important. Today, the customers have all of this information at their fingertips. Does the workforce have all of this information at the fingertips? A big problem in the retail industry, and especially because a huge portion of it is still organized, is people changing, right? How are we quickly able to recruit people? How are we quickly able to train people? How can we give them information about the products and services and features and functions and competitive information on the person's fingertips? And that's where empowering the employees is extremely important. Now, as I said, I only have 15 minutes to describe something which might take 15 days if I have to talk, okay? But to put it all together, our objective and mission is to put this entire thing on one single platform. And I will just summarize this whole thing. It starts from having the entire CRM at one place. The entire thing from manufacturing, inventory, supply chain, billing at one place. The things like retail, distribution management, channel management, secondary sales. And finally, when it comes to the store, whether it's online or whether it's in-store, to have the entire store management into one place. And all of this running on one single application, empowered by one single platform, available on the cloud with SLAs and available to you on the mobile as well. And that is the only thing which will enable this thing to become a reality tomorrow, right? That's all I wanted to share. Thank you so much.